So today we wanted to do first and foremost a check-in with everybody to make sure that we understand accurately your situation with your program and what contact, if any, you're having with your kids, what that looks like, and then what available technology or resources you have to use right now. And then based on that, we'll go through some of the available resources we have that we think could be really good alternatives depending on what your situation is, because obviously the in-person curriculum that we gave everyone access to, you're pretty limited in what you can do with that as of right now. So the goal by the end of the day is to figure out what the best course of action is for each program. And that may look a little bit different depending on your situation. But we want everyone to feel really good leaving this, that we at least have something that your students can be working on to continue building on the momentum that we created with the summits. And even if you have students that didn't attend, hopefully they can take advantage of some of these resources, because we want to help as much as we can with the learning gap and the challenges that every student and every program is facing. So first, I'd like to do that program check-in. So if anybody wants to go first, you may, but just tell us the three things on the slide, and 1 and 2 could be combined, but I would just love to hear what the current situation is with your program, what contact, if any, you're having, or what this program schedule looks like, and then what technology you have available to use for your students and staff. So anybody can go first.
Okay, well, I'll go first. Our current situation is that the Jennings School District has been out since the 17th. We have had no formal communication with students and parents because we're what you call on spring break until tomorrow. As of the 3rd, we will, really the 6th, we will go into a virtual school set of circumstances here because the district will be closed for sure until the 23rd of April. And that's because St. Louis County specifically is on a state order where we're not supposed to go out. So we will be doing virtual learning. The students have not received any Chromebooks or anything like that. We were on a call with our superintendent today, so we're just trying to get that figured out. They're thinking about really focusing on the high school seniors to get them graduated. So they'll be the first priority to make sure that all of those seniors have the Chromebooks in hand so that they can kind of finish up. And then everybody else in the district will receive 1 Chromebook per family. That may be a challenge because some of our families have large families, like up to 8 and 9 children. So we're still like in the process of trying to figure out how we're going to get the Chromebooks or the technology in their hand. Also, unfortunately, we're 100% free and reduced lunch, which means we are high poverty. So I don't know that they will have the access to like the hotspots or, the internet connection. So we're actually trying to work that out as well, trying to make sure that everybody has some sort of connectivity. My staff will have to work. The superintendent is setting up for the school day staff. They have to work between a certain number of hours, like a 10 to 2 setup. And this hasn't been pushed out yet. So this is just like our conversation. So the teachers don't know this yet. So I'm just saying, if you know any of them, don't tell them yet because they don't know this yet. But they will have like a work day from like a 10 to 2 type of setup where they will have to be in contact with students on a daily basis and have Google Classroom. And we're going to use some of the other online activities that have been set up and put together by our superintendent and the curriculum committee. But I read the communication from Desi that we can do some things within the program. We don't physically have kids, but there are some activities we could do. there's some programming needs that we can accomplish, have some Zoom meetings and that kind of thing. So my teachers or my managers and some of the key staff, we all have the technology. So that won't be an issue. It's just making sure that the kids on the receiving end will have it. So that's kind of where we are. Most of our, I'm not gonna say most, I don't know how many have it, but that's kind of what this check-in will be all of next week, to kind of see what the needs are, what students' needs, what parents' needs are, and then we'll kind of wrap around that.
Awesome. Thank you, Kimberly. Would you say I know they're free and reduced lunch. Do most of the kids have a smartphone or not?
No.
No. Okay.
Not most. Now, I will say the high school is a little different. I will say the high school, most of them, I would say yes. And
Okay.
those who don't will have a Chromebook. Because
Okay.
again, if they're a senior, they will definitely have one. Seniors are first priority, and then it'll kind of trickle down from there. I did have some juniors on the trip, but our first priority is the seniors and getting them graduated.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So does anybody else want to go next?
I'll go. At Van Buren, our current situation is we are currently closed until April 6th. We have not been in school since March 13th. Actually, this week was supposed to be the week that we kicked off our program. Samantha has told me after this meeting that I have the go-ahead. All of our kids that are enrolled in the program are all one-to-one. So starting this week, I'm going to get a hold of them and we're going to proceed. The only regulations we have is all contact with them has to be between 3:15 and 5:15 between Monday through Friday.
Got it. Okay. Awesome.
Jennifer, quick question for you. I know Samantha was on the call earlier, so I'm going to make the assumption that you guys will have interaction. Will you guys have interaction via Zoom or Google Hangouts? How would you guys, and that's just a quick question for me, because one of the things that came up in the call earlier was that there are certain school districts that do not allow for student staff interaction via Zoom. So I'm just asking that question.
They have not told us yet. She is supposed to let me know after this meeting. She and I was supposed to talk and decide exactly what was the best way to go forward.
Good. All right, that's helpful. All of this is helpful, by the way, just hearing from you guys and hearing what's happening in your context.
Thank you. Does anybody want to go next? Josh or Stephanie?
I can. We currently in the area, Branson, Reeds, and Forsyth are basically on an extended spring break. Now, again, that can probably change at any time. But right now, we are scheduled to go back to school soon. But again, that could change. But what that looks like right now is we've been at Boys and Girls Club. We've created a YouTube channel. We're calling it BGCO at Home. And we've been creating content all week. And we just started to push out the content yesterday. We pushed out some more today, and we'll continue to kind of sprinkle it out. And the idea there is that we want to keep them engaged, but we can't have one-on-one contact. And we were advised not to use things that we couldn't record the interaction. So we didn't want like a Facebook interaction at this time, and Zoom meetings. We don't think we would have a lot of participation in. We're still looking into how many kids actually have internet access at home. Most of our, I think it's grade 5 and up have Chromebooks. Patrick could probably speak to if the school district's already let them take them home or not. I don't know all the details there. Right now, we have our staff in. We are practicing social distancing, working on programming, training, and pushing out that content. We're also providing take-home packets for the younger kids. And we're working on ones for the teens. And we're thinking about like an Instagram or TikTok thing for the teens. That's about it right now. It's an ever evolving thing day to day.
No question. Thank you, Josh.
All right, it's my turn. Look, guys, I don't do well being by myself, so I gotta like pump myself up for this. Okay, Lakeway. We've been out of school since the 9th of March. We had our spring break program and then got told on the 14th or the 15th we weren't going to be back this week. Staff members went in and on the 16th and put together packets to mail home to our students, because the stark reality is if we didn't mail it home, they probably wouldn't come pick them up. So made packets to mail home to all 6th through 12th grade kids, K through 5s doing like class dojo, some education stuff that way. And then our school break got extended through the 6th of April, with now talking about virtual learning and what that's going to mean if we don't end up back in school after the 6th. Our superintendent said he doesn't really have an answer yet, but they're trying to figure out that platform. As of right now, we do not have Chromebooks that are given out to any of our students at all. The only students that use Chromebooks right now is our 5th grade students, and that's just because they got the EMINTS grant. So they were given one-to-one Chromebooks to use in classroom. So those are still all on campus. Most of our kiddos do have smartphones, although I don't know the best of what their data usage is. I'm super rural in Lakeway, and so like I hosted a Zoom call with my staff earlier, and one of my staff had to drive into town because she doesn't get internet at her house. So I think just that I don't know to what the best ability of them using their data is. Hopefully we can get them connected on the internet, but I can't always say for sure. We don't really know what's going to happen in our district. We don't really have communication with the students. The students all have school emails. However, if they remember what their passwords are or remember their logins is a different story. All the middle school and high school students do have a school email that they can at least access. And if they decide to go to virtual learning, they're going to have to utilize that email, because then they're going to be doing things like Google Classroom. So it will kind of force them online, which I think is a pretty good thing for them. It's just making sure they all have internet at home, because that's not always an option here.
Got it. Thank you, Stephanie. I think that's everybody, right?
Yeah, and let me chime in too that just do a little. I just heard the other day, maybe it was my days run together. I know Brad and I talked about, it was on our call earlier today, that yesterday was the longest week of our lives. But anyway, I know that I think Verizon and there maybe Suddenlink or CenturyLink, some of them are providing some free Wi-Fi access to those students who do not have it. So I don't know how that can be tapped into. Obviously, it depends on their service area and who, like even in the area that Josh is in, like the different internet provider, like over in Forsyth, it's Mediacom, I think. Whereas in just 10 miles down the road, you can't get Mediacom. You can only get Suddenlink or CenturyLink. So, I mean, it just depends on where you are as to what you can tap into. But that's just something to think about for those of you who maybe are looking at helping students access being able to get online.
I think Comcast was one of those options. I don't know if Comcast is in anyone's area. It is not in mine, but Comcast was offering free internet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Josh. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. That's super helpful for us to even know what's going on with everything. I know it's changing every day and constantly moving, but that gives us a good basis to at least think about how we can move forward. So what I wanted to do was talk about now some alternatives to hopefully maintain some continuity with the program and pick back up where we left off before everyone basically got shut down. So what we had before is everyone should have access to the platform where it's called Kajabi, but it's branded All 220, where you had your 3 courses that were basically 18-week lesson plan curriculum. And that the Create Your 220 Life was the one that we were working through. We actually have a student-facing online course version of that, and it's called the Leadership Course. So it's more of a traditional online course that has 9 modules. It includes videos, articles, a full workbook that has, a section for each of those 9 modules. And we pace it out at basically 1 module per week. And it goes through very similar content to what that curriculum goes through. And again, it's just the student self-paced learning going through this course. And so depending on their technology and their ability to access the internet, this could be a really good option. It's accessible via Chromebook and a laptop, but it's also accessible via just a phone if they have it. And the one thing that they would probably struggle with would be the videos, but there's usually 1, max 2 videos per module, and everything else is more text-based or filling out their workbook, which is a PDF that they can fill out on their phone or on their device. So we think this could be a pretty good option as long as students have at least some internet access on a device. And even if that's not, today or even this week, even if we're looking at more of like the April 6th timeline, this still could be, we think, a really good option because, again, it's very similar content. And it lines up really well with the summit and any curriculum you guys had gotten through up to the point before everything got called off. So what I wanted to do was just show everyone what it would look like.
Hey, real quick, Matthew, before you jump further, Tila has joined us, and so and then also Sherry Snyder has jumped in from Van Buren. So Jennifer's already given us a little update, but Sherry's on here now too. But might give just a quick moment, let Tila kind of give us an overview as to what their situation is in how they're serving in BGC Columbia.
So far what we're doing is we're trying to move over to virtual programming. Before we shut down, we sent the kids home with packets and we had them sign up for a Remind app. We will be pushing out reminders through our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and doing YouTube videos of programs, and trying to also do Zoom so that we can interact with the kids. And we're also going to be contacting them by phone. With the only time that we'll be using the Zoom is for academic purposes, because currently right now they're technically on spring break. So next week we will hit up our mandatory kids who need assistance with their homework and have our tutors online with them to do their homework through Zoom. And then the rest of the staff will be creating YouTube videos and contacting.
Awesome.
And in the chat box, Stephanie's just asking, could we possibly print out the modules for the students and mail it to them? Obviously, looking at her context and how she talked about that in their particular context, they may have to mail stuff to their kids to make sure they get it.
Yep, and you can definitely print out the text-based modules. I mean, there's definitely a lot that's printable. We'll talk about a limited to zero technology option after we go through the course, which is and not to withhold or anything, but it's basically the workbook that goes along with this course, which is a PDF that as long as they could get access to it one time via email, or if, again, they needed to have it printed out for them and sent to them, there's enough context in there where they could actually go through the workbook, get the context they need for each worksheet, and then fill it out themselves and use that as a tool to follow along, even though they don't have access to the full course. So that's definitely an option that we'll talk about. But I did want to go through and just show you what the course looks like. So the way that we would get the students enrolled is we have, if this is an option for your program, we would, I gotta move my, so we just have like a very basic enrollment sheet, and what we would need is your students' information. So we would sign them up, just student name and email, and then they would get 2 emails from us, one to let them know they've been granted access to the course, and another one with their login info. So they would just click the link and use this password, and they can reset their password once they sign in. But this would basically be their access granted to the course. And then when they log in to the course, they'll see the course card of the leadership course, and they will. Oh, I'm in the wrong course. Hang on, sorry about that. But they will be able to just start taking the course right away. Sorry, hang on one second.
Hey, Matthew.
Yes.
From a like the teacher standpoint, would we be able to see what they're working on and where they're at in the process?
Yes. So you can. So we'll give everyone that here that wants to use this course access. So you'll be able to see everything. And as far as seeing progress, we have that ability on the back end. So what we can do is and we can decide this schedule. That's part of what I want to do on this call. And we'll send out a follow-up email so that we hopefully all have a somewhat unified schedule moving forward. But what I can do is, whether we decide if it's a weekly basis or if it's every 2 weeks, what we can do is print out progress and send it to each of the programs to show where their students are at in the course. But another thing that we'll recommend is, and we'll show you once we dig into one of the modules, but to really use the workbook as a checkpoint. So to actually have a meaningful checkpoint instead of just, because all the back end report shows us is what they've clicked on and basically what they've clicked on and spent any time in, but it doesn't necessarily show what they've completed in their workbook since it's a separate document. So whether that's uploading their work in the workbook to Google Drive or sending it via email, if that's an option, we think that's a really good way to check in with your students and make sure that they're making progress through the modules. So this is their home base, what they'll see when they log in, and their sidebar is all on the left, and this just gives you an idea of what's in each module. So it's a good mix of a lot of, like I said, videos, articles, workbook exercises, challenges, some quizzes, and then even recommended resources if they want to learn more about the topic. So we'll just click into one. And so this is the opening video where we talk about time, which follows, again, the curriculum that you'd hopefully gotten a chance to start it, or got the chance to start where we're about to start. This is just like learning further and another way to reinforce time. So a different way to learn. And then here's an article to go even deeper in that topic. And then each of the modules actually has a video that walks students through how to fill out each section of their workbook. So if you play that, Joseph's walking you through how to fill it out so that they are really clear on what they need to do. 220 challenge, which is basically trying to get them to apply this in their real life outside of just the course and the workbook. quizzes just to make sure they watch the video, and then key takeaways to make sure that they understand what they're supposed to remember from each module. And then again, recommended resources so they can go deeper. Here's a video for this one, the jelly beans video. Some of you, if you were ever in one of our workshops at one of the conferences, you probably saw this video with us. And then here's an example of an article that goes deeper on the subject of time. And so each of the modules is structured that way. And again, we pace it out as about one module per week, since there's a lot of content and reflection within each one. Does anybody have any questions about the course?
No, I'm sorry that I popped in late. I was working through a digital escape room that I'm sending out to my ELA kids.
Oh.
I think one problem that Jennifer and I will have is our kids were smack dab in the middle of spring break when all this shut down. So I have no idea. I don't know if Jennifer has talked to any of them, but I don't know if they have their Chromebook with them. You know, we just don't know. So that's where our school is right now. We're still kind of trying to decide what to do with our kids, because most of them probably didn't take Chromebooks home for spring break. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, it sounds like there's some other programs have some uncertainty around whether or not every student will have devices. So that's probably something we're going to have to work through. Any other questions on the course before we talk about just the workbooks more specifically?
Nope.
Cool. So I just wanted to give you an idea of what the course looks like and what students will expect when they get enrolled. And again, if that is an option that you're interested in, we think it's the best option, the best alternative to the curriculum that we had originally planned to go through. So we'd love to get as many of you signed up for that as possible, assuming we can figure something out for your students. And again, if you need to, we'll send it, or if you are interested, all you need to do is fill out one of these sheets. I'll send it in a Google Sheet form and in an Excel form. Just fill it out and send it back to us, and we'll get your students enrolled right away. And so, you know, I want to pull up the original curriculum schedule we had. Our goal is by the end to come up with some sort of schedule that we can all stick to, even though it's going to have to be modified based on what we originally came up with. So, you know, we had this going through May 4th, but because this program is only basically 9 weeks long, if they go one module per week, and they could do the same if they're just filling out the workbook, which again, they don't need the internet for, they just need to be able to get the PDF version or have it mailed to them. Then we could start a little bit later if we need to. I know a lot of people are on spring break right now, and there's the uncertainty about devices. So one thing that's good is that it does give us a little bit of time for everybody to get figured out what is going to be practical and feasible. But again, because it's a little bit shorter than the 18 lesson plans we originally had, I think it does give us a little bit more flexibility. But we would love to continue to have webinars like this to make sure that everyone's supported. We don't just want to give you this online course and then check in at the very end and hope it went well. We want to continue to schedule these webinars as we had originally planned. Again, it may change a little bit, but just wanted to call everyone's attention to that's our goal. So the other curriculum alternatives that we had, so it sounds like a lot of people are uncertain about technology. We included Google Meet in there or Zoom, just in case that is an option for you and your students. This could be a really cool way to, whether students are using the online course, or if you can do a couple of modules from the curriculum with your students on a Zoom call, that could be a really good option, even if every student doesn't maybe have everyday access to the internet. Once things get maybe a little bit back to normal in a couple of weeks, this could be an option if students can make it to a library or something. But again, all up in the air. We just wanted to throw that out as an option. This is something I've been doing with a mentoring group for entrepreneurship that was supposed to be all in person, and we've been able to have pretty successful meetings over Meet. So I just wanted to throw that out. And then again, like I talked about, for the most limited zero technology option, the best one we have is this Kickstarter workbook. So it's, again, goes step by step with the online modules, and see if I can download it here so you can all see it. But again, this gives students the option of, it's a fillable PDF, so they can type directly in. Oh wait, I forgot, we actually have a Google Slides version too. So if they have access to that, they can fill it out via Google Slides, or they can use a PDF, which is up here. And so again, like we talked about, even if they couldn't access the course and get the context from the videos, each worksheet does have an introduction, so they get some context with what they're filling out, and it can be filled out without the online course. So we think this is probably the best option if technology is just not an option at all. But because all the students would still be filling out this workbook, you could pace it out for students so that there's checkpoints where maybe they have to upload their workbook with a certain number of exercises completed by a certain date. And that could give you the opportunity to at least have check-in points, if not get further discussions, whether that's via Zoom or Meet, or if eventually we do get to have more in-person sessions sooner rather than later. But those are the main options that we had identified, and we're definitely open if people have other ideas of how we could continue to move momentum forward. But again, if possible, we'd love to get everybody on the online course. We understand that may not be feasible for everyone, or at least feasible at this time. So the main alternative we had was just using the workbook. So I'll pause there to see if anybody has any questions, or if you want me to walk through anything more, I'm happy to do that.
Have you already shared this information with us so that we'll have it available?
No, you don't have it yet, but we will send a follow-up email with links and resources recapping the call and everything that programs need to know moving forward.
Okay.
The question I would have is, and I still think it's somewhat limited information, but how soon do you guys feel like you would have some kind of interaction with the students who attended the summit to then begin the process?
Well, again, I don't know. Jennifer, do you have a feeling for how many of those 9 kids I mean, some of them I know have their own technology, and we can maybe send a remind or something to them. I know that our after school program leader, did you get her email that said that they will pay us our after school money?
Yes, we had a meeting yesterday. We had a Zoom meeting yesterday with her. Actually, part of the kids, because I sent out a thing on our Google Classroom yesterday of all my high school kids, several of them I did hear back from, so I do feel like it's something that I will be able to hear from them. That last one, I feel like it's something that I can make a Google Classroom, and most of those kids will be able to access, and they will work on it either from because all of those students have smartphones. So even if they didn't take their Chromebooks home, I think they'll be able to access it on their smartphones.
Okay.
So
sounds like we're a go then, Mark.
Okay, awesome. One thing I'm wondering now that I just was processing where everyone is at, I heard the date April 6th a lot as a tentative restart, whether that's just virtual classes or, or maybe the goal of getting back some stuff in person. Would it be helpful to use that as a start date for everyone, or is that not soon enough? Like, would people rather get started sooner, their students started sooner on this?
Well, for me and Jennings, April 6th would be best for me.
Okay.
I think April 6th would probably be best for us too, just not knowing what we're going to do. And it gives kind of Amy and Randall some leeway to get figured out, possibly to reach out to the students now and just see if they can make contact and figure out what platform is going to be the best for them moving forward. And if we have access to it, then it gives us time to print things out and send it to them if we need to go that route as well. Just gives us a little bit more time on the planning phase to get things going so we can really start and move forward with it the right way.
Awesome.
The question I would have on that too then, Matthew, is I know you want everybody to be fairly in sync so that whatever webinar check-ins we have, we're on a very similar schedule. But if a program did have the opportunity to start a tad earlier, would that be a challenge as moving forward?
No, especially given the current situation. No, I would say as soon as you're ready, we can get you up and running. But all we would need is the student enrollment data, so name and email. But at the very least, what we'll do by the end of the day today, I'll get everyone here access to this course, so you can click through it and print out stuff if you want to, print out the workbooks and just get really familiar with it. And we would encourage you to go through it and take the course. The content is really designed to be taken by anyone, but it's, some of the language is specifically for students, but it's stuff that Joseph and I use all the time for our own goals and in our company. So it definitely will be helpful when you're talking to students and encouraging them to go through it and take it seriously, if you can provide some of your examples because you've gone through the course and understand the material. So I think what sounds like is it, so, okay, what I'll do, Mark, is I'll send out an email with the registration document, so the template to get students registered. And as soon as programs are ready, you can send it back and we will get them enrolled. And we can assume that a lot of programs may start around April 6th, but if you start before then, that's totally fine. And then what I'll also do is by the end of the day, get everyone signed up on that's on the call on the course, so you can start to go through it. And if there's other details, like I'll include the slide deck from today, and then any other information that we think would be helpful to have, we'll send that out. But to me, those sound like next steps. I don't know if you have any other ones that you think at the current time would make sense.
I think that's a great start and gives us some parameters, gives us a direction. I also would say that I think the April 6th is what a lot of schools were shooting for, especially the schools that started this process earlier. And in terms of, I think that was a hope that they'd be able to be back in school. Again, we can't speak for all schools. I do know that as more and more communities go to sheltered status or sheltered state status, I mean, Columbia just went to 30 days. Branson just went to 30 days. I just saw something else. Greene County just went to 30 days where they're, so that's going to push even more. That particular date's going to be pushed off in several locations, not every, but again, we're still in wait mode to see what the state's going to do in terms of schools. That doesn't mean we can't still be working to engage our students in the after school space to help them keep moving forward. But I do think that's what that April 6th time has been for a lot of people, is just that hope of getting back and engaged, hopefully. But I think that's obviously going to be pushed off maybe until next school year.
I think the kids that I brought for Jennifer that day, because she wasn't able to attend, are intrinsically motivated enough, that they will welcome something like this to work on. Don't you, Jen?
Yes, definitely.
So I think that's a good deal. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you all for making the time and doing the best you can with the current situation.
I'm over it already.
I know. I think that's all I have for right now. If you guys have questions anytime, or if I can be helpful, don't hesitate to reach out. We're just basically in support mode, trying to help all of our programs maintain some level of continuity. So just reach out anytime. But from my standpoint, I'll get that email together today and get everyone access to the course so they can start going through it, and you'll have the template to register your students as soon as you're ready.
Also, I'll let you know that we've recorded this. And so once we've got it ready, if for those of you that want any of your other staff to look at it, I'll make sure that it's ready for you guys at some point to, if you want to rewatch this. And then also, Matthew, if you'll give us some target times of check-in times again to schedule some of these Zoom check-ins and marking points once we have that schedule put together.
Sure. Yep, I can do that.
Well, our whole hope here, and I know you'll hear this from us moving forward, we just want to support you guys as best we can on as many fronts as possible with options. We want to make sure that as you're able to pay your staff to give some quality stuff, that they can still get draw a paycheck from the grant if at all possible, by still providing quality, opportunities to the students and still serving the students within the guidelines that the grant offers. So yeah, thanks for jumping in with us. I just didn't want a whole lot more time to go by, given the fact that, we had such a great kickoff that week. It felt like the students were really engaged, and it's very encouraging to see where we can go from here. And now we just get to innovate, which is always fun when you're faced with some challenges. But that's cool. We get to see how it works from here too. Anybody else have anything else you want to add?
Not at this point.
Awesome. Thank you guys for joining. Like Matthew said, if you have any questions, just let us know. And in the meantime, you guys stay well, and we'll connect real soon, okay?
Okay, thank you. Have
Awesome.
a great day. Be safe.
Everyone, stay safe.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Stay
Bye-bye.
healthy.
Guys.
Absolutely.